You're in the trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics. The Cincinnati Bengals back on the practice field today as they count down to some real football Saturday night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the first preseason game of the 2024 NFL season. Lap, you were on hand today. We talk about this often in training camp as it continues to roll through, where all of a sudden, I don't know if it's the heat from the month of August and you're hitting against teammates, things get a little heated. And today was the kind of the boiling point today between, especially it's always in the trenches. And
right.
The linemen seem to be the ones that fight on the offensive side, and linebackers get a little pesky when on the defensive side. And that was the case today.
Yeah, as well as defensive lineman. B.J. Hill got involved as well. And you're right, Dave. I mean, it's been a few days in pads now, and there was only one live tackling period for the younger players just to kind of show what they've got at one of the practices. And there's always chirping going on back and forth between players. You wouldn't have gotten me on the ground. You know, I would have busted that tackle. I would have scored on that. I can't believe they're spotting the ball at the 4-yard line. You would have not made that hit on me one-on-one. Oh, yeah, we would have gotten a quarterback sack on that one. I mean, offense and defense are always kind of chirping at each other, and some of it good-natured, some of it very competitive. I mean, these guys are prideful. I mean, they're uber competitive people. There's no question. That's why they're at the level that they're at. But as a former player, I mean, I guess I don't know what the media thought about it. I guess maybe they thought it was World War III or something. But I just thought it was a fun practice. I thought it was extremely competitive. I thought they got a lot done. I thought Joe Burrow had a hell of a day. I thought, as a unit, as guys were walking off the football field, I just heard a lot of guys saying, yeah, that was good work, man. That was a good practice. You got to protect yourself. You got to make sure that it doesn't go. It's edgy, obviously, but you got to make sure it doesn't, go into absurdity. And it didn't. And I think, they're smart enough to make sure that doesn't happen. But like I said, I think Joe Burrow's getting better every single day. I mean, he's, it's a game of small gains. There's no question about it. And, he's doing everything he possibly can every day to find that little bit extra. And as well as a lot of his teammates, are as well. He made some throws today where he got out of pocket and had a throwback pass that was pretty extraordinary. I mean, he had a pass where he was off platform that was really a thing of beauty to watch. I mean, I thought he and T. Higgins hooked up multiple times. I mean, down the middle of the football field to both sidelines. Every quadrant in the football field they attacked, and T attacked it from different alignments. So Newton had a pass breakup as a young rookie. He missed 9 months with that knee injury, and he's starting to work his way back in, and he's starting to make some plays. It was a touchdown pass to Kwame Lassiter that Jake Browning executed. I mean, there were a lot of everybody's. All is definitely he's in recovery mode, getting his football legs back. But I thought the team periods where they had move the ball period, and it wasn't situational. It was the plays weren't scripted. It was just move the football. It was football what it was, and they were long periods. And they had number ones and number twos on both sides of the football were out there for an extended period of time. And I think that's when the tempers got a little bit short. Ted Karras had a little altercation going with Logan Wilson. Kappa came in to join in, and that's when B.J. Hill, ripped his helmet off. Pratt in a drill that was, supposed to have tackling, but there've been a lot of chirping going on about you wouldn't have got me to the ground yet. Well, Pratt took him to the ground, and at that point, all hell broke loose there for a little bit. People took exception to it, and so but again, all football, not anything that is going to linger, not anything that's going to cause hard feelings in the locker room where, guys are going to be, oh man, is this going to turn into a fight in the locker room? Nothing like that. So it's all good. Everybody's getting ready for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the first game. And you know how that goes, Dave. It's evaluation time for the backups. And the one thing that I've been really pleased with watching as a fan and broadcast responsibilities. Not a whole lot of penalties, and it doesn't appear to be a whole lot of mental errors now. They're in the infancy stages. They haven't installed anything super sophisticated. It's the basic stuff, but there haven't been mental errors even by the young guys. That's apparent to to John Q. Public. I mean, I'm sure the coaches are tweaking, fine tuning things when they look over tape with guys, but there have not been a lot of offside penalties, motion penalties, and I think that's going to be significant when they when they tee it up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Will they be penalty free? Will they avoid mental errors? That's always a big deal. And while talking about getting ready for that game, they did make personnel changes. McNamara, one of the punters, was let go. It's a two-man battle now. Robbins is working against Renko, so and they also got rid of Trey Mosley, let him go at the wide receiver position, and they put Cam Sample on an injury list with his Achilles. He's out for the year, and they signed a couple of defensive linemen. They were thinning the ranks there, Dave. So they went out and they got a couple of guys. They're going to be wearing number 46 and number 47, and number 46 is going to be a young man by the name of Andre Carter, 6'5", 270-pounder, out of Indiana. He was a college free agent with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they let him go. Bengals pick him up here. And then also another defensive tackle going to be wearing number 47, Joshua Pryor, 6'4", 280-pounder in his second year out of Bowie State. College free agent with the Redskins. He played in 7 games last year, had a special teams tackle. So those two guys enter camp. I know there was a third defensive lineman that they were looking at, and he was getting a physical. He had to go to the hospital to get his physical, and I'm not sure what took place there. I guess he was maybe arrived a little bit later in the day, or maybe they decide not to sign him, or whatever the case may be. But they're beefing up a place where they're a little bit short going into that first preseason game, and I'm going to be interested to watch some guys, Dave, as this first preseason game comes upon us. And there's, from a former offensive lineman standpoint, there's a couple of guys that I'm going to be watching. Jackson Kirkland, big old number 60. I mean, this kid is he's got the body for the National Football League. There is no question about that. I mean, his stature, he's long, 6'7", and he weighs 328 pounds. He's got very long arms. He's very strong. He's just, he's making sure he gets that pad level down. That's the big thing with him. But he's having a pretty darn good camp. I mean, he's fighting for a much bigger role. There's no question about that. And another guy that I think is doing a pretty good job handling backups. I mean, he's shown that he can get the job done. Matt Lee, the center who they drafted, and of course everybody's going to be wanting to watch Mims, and there's obviously big reasons for that. But I do think that you got some other young offensive linemen that it's going to be interesting to watch and see what they do in that first live preseason action against a different color jersey. And we've seen it, Dave. I mean, a lot of times players, they shine in practice and they disappear in game. I mean, and who grows, who shrinks in the bright lights. It's going to be an interesting thing to watch. So that's always the tester. I mean, there's a lot of questions that will continue to be answered. It's like, all right, well, he's really having a really good camp. A guy like Yossi, he's having a very, very fine camp. How's he going to do against other people? Is he going to continue to shine that way? Same thing with Charlie Jones. Is he going to be steady and consistent against other people like he has been? Jermaine Burton, I mean, he can be dynamic. Are the things that he does physically is going to translate to the Bengals offensive system in games? I mean, you want to see, that kind of thing. The tight ends, how's that going to shake down? Who's going to be the guy that's going to get most of the targets in that first preseason game? Who's going to step up at the tight end position? Like I said, Matt Lee has been stout against some of the backup defensive players when he's worked against them in practice. Will that translate? Will it translate for other guys on the defensive side of it. When you're looking in the secondary, these young players, Josh Newton, Dejon Anthony, these guys have shown up. Lance Robinson, I mean, he's another guy that is going to be interesting to watch. And Darren Simmons with special teams is going to have a big say in that, in terms of making decisions there. At the linebacker position, are you going to keep 5 because of the new kickoff rule? Or is it, it's going to be best man, obviously. Will it be a 5th linebacker? Will it be an extra defensive back? Will it be an extra tight end? But, you got a bunch of linebackers that are fighting for that 5th linebacker position. It's Shaka Hayward, Devin Harper, Aaron Casey, guys like that. It's like, man, it's time to show something. So there's a lot of things to watch in this first preseason game, as there always are. And of course, the big question is, how much will the number one players? Will it be a series? Will it be a quarter? I think potentially, Dave, it could be a feel. If they go out and don't play well for a series, they may take another one. If they go out and play really well in a series, that may be the end of the show. But it's not going to be an extended period of time. But I think you're going to see, players out there. And I think it goes along with what they're doing here at practices. This practice was very physical. Team periods were the biggest part of practice, and that's football. I mean, go pretty physical, thump, go after each other, finish blocks, not necessarily tackle, although Jermaine Pratt said, I'm going to take you down one time. But yeah, and there was a lot of competition going on between, both sides of the line of scrimmage, like you say, in the trenches, Dave. And I mean, it was good, man. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was football. That was practice as I remember practice. And I think that they've been pretty physical at practices this year, I think, with an intent. And what is that intent? To get off to a faster start. And I think they are going to play more in the preseason. I think those joint workouts, I'm looking forward to seeing the intensity of those against the Chicago Bears and the Colts. I mean, I think this is going to turn out to be, if not the most physical, one of the most in the tenure of Zach Taylor.
You're in the trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics. If you're looking for a career change, be sure to visit firststarlogistics.com to learn more about openings with one of the fastest growing companies in Cincinnati. And as Lapp and I can attest to, a great place to be at. A lot of fun going on at First Star Logistics right now, as they're having their own Summer Olympics like they do every summer. And it gets very, very competitive in a very competitive field. So it's going to be interesting to see how the First Star Logistics Olympics finishes, as the U.S. is doing very successful. Lapp, I have to make a public service announcement today, because the Bengals announced here late after practice that the August 8th, tomorrow, Thursday, practice has been closed to the public.
Right.
And so we're going to make sure, so fans, if you're listening, so you know that practice closed tomorrow, August 8th, Thursday, August 8th, to the public.
And I think there's a reason for that, Dave, is that I think they're going to go in the stadium. And I think what they're going to do is introduce the young players to the stadium. I don't think they want them to go into the stadium for the first time the night of the game. I think they want to get them familiar with the surroundings, the locker room, what it's going to be like to come out of the tunnel, on the football field, just get a little bit of a feel for it. And I don't think that's unwise by any stretch. I think, obviously it's going to be different on game night with the place packed with people. But at least, get a feel for what the turf's going to be like, get a feel for all that sort of thing. And, they spent some money renovating putting new turf in and all that sort of thing. So I think it's going to be an introduction that's an intelligent one before the actual game for that practice, because it's going to be I don't think it's going to be as physical as today's, Dave. I think they're going to start to let them get their legs back, but I do think it'll be fairly intense. I think, again, Trey Hendrickson was back. I wanted to mention that as well, Dave. He was in equipment today, but he didn't do anything in team drills. They're going to be ramping him up. He did some individual drill work. Trent Brown is ramping up still as well. He was out there in pads again today. So they are starting to get some players back. And, unfortunately, poor Cam Sample having to have that Achilles surgery. But the other injuries that they've had, everybody would like to see the injury list shrink and not sustain any more injuries. But none of them are season ending, and most of the guys will be back on short term rather than long term. So far, knock on wood, it's been pretty good in that regard.
That was going to be my next question for you, Lap, was the fact that they signed Andre Carter, as you mentioned, out of Indiana, originally signed by Jacksonville. I remember when he played at Western Michigan for 4 years before he transferred to IU. Had a big career going at Western Michigan, and then when he went to IU, had success there. But Joshua Pryor, the defensive tackle, what's the latest status on McKinley Jackson, who going through a little bit of an injury issue?
Yeah, he was walking around today very stiff-legged with a big old brace on that left leg. So that left knee, I mean, it's not season-ending by any stretch. I don't think they think it's going to be long-term, but it would not surprise me if I'm not sure how much he's going to be able to play in the preseason. I mean, maybe if everything works out in the most fortunate way, might be able to come back for snaps in the last preseason game potentially, but who knows? I mean, that all can change too on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. But he's right now he's peg-legging it around with a big old brace on that left leg. So he's certainly not going to be part of the dance. And everybody's like, oh man, these poor guys that they're signing. These are training camp bodies. I'll tell you what. There's a lot of guys playing the game of football that would love to be a training camp body. I mean, it's like any way that you can show more tape, show what you can do in a professional camp. There's only 32 of the darn things on an NFL level. And if you're in a training camp at any point in time, you never know. I mean, you're going to be in the Rolodex file of every team in the National Football League. Yeah, that guy, he was just at training camp with the Cincinnati Bengals. Shoot, let's put him on our practice squad. And I'm talking about during the course of the season if it doesn't work out on final cuts and everything. And plus, there are other leagues from a professional standpoint you can participate in. So it's like, yeah, why would you go and be a practice squad player? Well, man, I'll tell you what, a lot of players walking around the streets would look at it as a badge of honor to be in a training camp on an NFL football team in any way, shape, or form. And that's exactly where these guys are looking at it. They're looking at it as an opportunity to go up against players and show something, and you may get some snaps in this first preseason game because the ranks are thin. We're talking about these defensive linemen that, have missed time. Trey Hendrickson, Sam Hubbard was not in pads yet. Sam's not playing. Trey's not playing. I mean, a lot of these guys aren't going to play. But another guy I think that deserves a little bit of mention, who really worked on his body as well, Dave, is Zach Carter. I mean, this kid has a good work ethic, man. He's bigger, stronger. I mean, he's going to be a guy that with Cam Sample going down, he in a pinch, he can go out there and give you snaps outside as well as inside, where he's much more comfortable. B.J. Hill can do the same thing in a pinch. They do have some versatility up there. But it's going to be interesting to see how these guys that have worked so hard. That's the thing. You bust your butt, and again, the high profile guys, the Joe Burrows of the world. I mean, that gets talked about a lot. But these trench guys that are rotational players, it might not get talked about as much. But a lot of these guys worked their tail off. I mean, and the offensive lineman, the defensive lineman, is going to pay off. And it starts with this first preseason game. So you want to put as much good tape out there as you possibly can, and hopefully all that work that you put in the off season, you get a payday out of it.
Yeah, as First Star Logistics always says, opportunity knocking. Anytime you can put on an NFL uniform and get out on the field, as you said, you have an opportunity to make something happen for yourself, and that's more than most people can ask for that love the game of football.
Yeah, Dave, how many guys can go up literally, and a lot of guys, tell stories about it. It's exaggerated. Yeah, man. I was on an NFL team. Well, would you show up at a mini camp one day and didn't even get signed to a roster? I mean, these guys can actually say, look, I was at the Cincinnati Bengals training camp. And I was out there and I was busting it and got some snaps in a preseason game. Didn't quite work out, but yeah, man, at least part of my dream was fulfilled. I put on a uniform of an NFL team, one of 32 teams, and went out there on their behalf in the preseason and gave it everything I had. I mean, that's something to be proud of, something to be able to tell people.
People would be surprised. Several years ago, there was a TV show. Michael Irvin ran a
Yep.
reality TV show, and I happened to have a
Yep.
chance to work on that a little bit when they came to Ohio looking for guys to be on that TV show, and we went to Columbus and we
Yep.
interviewed. Oh man, it was a few hundred people. Guys showed up, and some we called because of my background with Scout.com and Fox Sports. We called guys who were out of the game.
It was a tryout. He was trying guys out, right? To live the dream in the National Football League, trying to get him a tryout with an NFL team, right?
Yeah, the winner was going to get an opportunity in camp with the Dallas Cowboys, and
Right.
you just in Columbus alone, we had a few hundred guys that came for the interview process where we gathered their information, spoke to them, kind of got their backstory, what happened. As Lap, as you know, there's lots of reasons why guys who have talent are not in the NFL. And sometimes it's, self-made issues that kept them out of the game. Sometimes, hey, they may have been the last cut, of a training camp, and they're just looking for any way to get back in. And it was a very interesting show to work on, and then to watch it progress through. And I believe the person who ultimately won, I actually think stuck a little bit with the Dallas Cowboys. So
Yeah.
overall it was a success, but again, limited numbers of opportunities for guys to play in the league. It is, people think, hey, just because you went and had I talked to a young man I know played at Ohio State here recently. You're not guaranteed, even if you play and star at Ohio State, to get one in a camp of an NFL team, let alone maybe make a practice squad. And that's changed so much over the course of the last few years because when COVID happened, they expanded the practice squads. They changed the way they ran the practice squads. So there are a few more opportunities for guys. And then we get into the spring leagues and so forth. And again, the Bengals, a prime example of they bring in another guy who had a great spring and is carrying it over into a camp in the NFL with the Bengals right now. But as you know, Lap, you play one season, you had to experience that when you left the Bengals and went to the USFL. You didn't have a break, so that's a testament on the body because the body's taking a beating.
Oh, no doubt. They're right now there are 90 guys in NFL camps. There's 32 teams, so you're talking about 3,000 bodies. I mean, literally, that's what we're talking about here. Less than 3,000. The roster, when they have the final roster, excuse me, down to 53, that's 5 are going to be deactivated for game day, but there's a 53-man final roster that expands to 69 because of the 16 practice squad roster that we're talking about that was COVID related and everything. And the way there's attrition with injury in the National Football League, they feel like that's a pretty good number. So let's 70 players, less than 70, but say round it up to 70 times 30, that's 2,100. So, I mean, you're talking about, 2,200 guys that are on the 69-man roster. You pare it down to the 53, then you pare it down to 48. I mean, to say that you were in a training camp and you were all the way to the last cut, you're talking about you're in the final decision-making process of between 2,500 and 3,000 guys. And think of all the guys playing football. I mean, for you to be involved in a training camp in a 90-man roster at any point in time, you're a damn good football player. You've had a track record of success at high school, collegiately, and trying to not have the door closed on you at the professional level. So, and hats off to any of these guys that get an opportunity, and you never know, what it might lead to. You just don't. You never know. So it's going to be interesting to watch all these guys compete, and everybody's competing for different things, obviously, and everybody's prideful. There's no question about that, and everybody wants to put their best foot forward and show the best performance they possibly can. That's one of my favorite things, is to watch the training camp roster be formulated and then pared down, and the reasons for paring it down, and injuries that might occur, and adjustments that you make because of the injuries from a personnel standpoint. And hopefully you don't have to do much schematically. Hopefully it's not somebody that is like a Joe Burrow type person. You don't want to sustain any more injury at that quarterback position with him. And I mean, there's just so much, and it's a very interesting process. There's no question about it. And the organization, the front office people have, they got to worry about the 90 and the 60, the 69, but the players, they're focused and honed in on, I want to make that 53-man roster. I want to make the 48-man roster. I want to be a starting player. I mean, there's just so many levels to it. So it's not easy, and it's a competitive environment, man. You gotta make sure you eat right, you get your rest, you take care of your body, you try to avoid injury, you don't make mistakes, you put your best foot forward every single day. You don't want to have a day where, for whatever reason, man, so-and-so didn't show up at practice today. What the hell was wrong with him? You don't want coaches saying that. And you definitely don't want them saying it when it's a scrimmage or one of these controlled practices, or, a preseason game or whatever. So, man, you got to, it's a physically and mentally exhausting experience. But, man, you talk about adrenaline rushes, you talk about rewarding. It's there's nothing like it. There is nothing like it. I mean, you talk about teamwork. You talk about goal setting with your team, your players. Man, I mean, you do that in the work environment. When you're done playing, but there's nothing like going out there and 22 guys to start a football game, and 48 guys that are on the roster that day getting it done. There's nothing better.
Cincinnati Bengals will have a practice on Thursday. They will take a day off, which technically, as Lap and I know, really not an off day. It's off day is probably putting the pads on, but they're probably meetings as they prepare for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Saturday night, 7 p.m., Paycor Stadium. You have been in the trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics. Do us a favor. Help us keep growing this channel. Like the videos you see, subscribe if you've not done so, and also comment. We love comments, and it helps the interaction and gets more people involved. And, tell your friends about Dave Lapham in the trenches. Until next time, this is Dave Burke for Dave Lapham. Hoo-day.
Hoo-day, Dave.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.